one thing that I use to help my self-management is to make decisions in advance. These fall into a couple of different categories. They're practical day-to-day and what I call my emergency safeguard. So in practical terms, when my brain fog, fatigue or overwhelm is kicked off, I find it really hard to make decisions. I can't process the information, and I know I'm not processing information, and it can create a complete roadblock. So decisions become a huge deal, really energy draining, and sometimes just impossible. Or I'll make decisions that aren't actually that wise. So I've learned over time, where possible, to make the decisions in advance. Now, this is especially true if I know I've got a busy day. Tomorrow, I'll make the decisions for that day. And if I'm going to need a recharging day after the busy day, I will try and make as many decisions in advance for the whole of the 2-day period. So this will include things like what to wear, what to eat, activity options. And not just, this isn't a list of things I plan to do. This is a list of things that are probably going to be within capacity. And I'll make a similar list of household tasks or work tasks that will probably be within capacity and realistic for that day. So I don't expect to do everything on these lists, but it means I've got a list that it's safe for me to choose from. That a list that I've already made the decisions as to what is likely to be appropriate and useful, and then I can choose from within that safe range. I would even choosing whether to shower or have a baby wipes wash, what level of physiotherapy I'm likely to be able to do effectively. All those decisions I will actually make in advance. And if I've got a planned busy day and the evening before I'm like, I'm not sure that this is going to actually be manageable, I may have to cancel, I will make that decision the night before, because if I leave it till the morning of and then I haven't got that decision making capacity, it's going to create a huge amount of stress. Whereas if I make that decision in advance, then I can, for example, then have a day that is a recharging day or a splat day instead of the thing that I've cancelled, and I can properly do that and then start recharging. Whereas if I haven't made that decision, I'll end up being really stressed about the thing I'm not able to do. But also, these decisions aren't set in stone, rigid decisions. They all have provisos, which can kind of be summed up as, unless I am well enough to change this decision. So it's like these decisions aren't things I then have to do. It's a safety net. If I can't make decisions, then I follow the ones I've made in advance, and that will keep me safe. It will allow me to achieve some things. It will allow me to do some things, even if I am not capable of making all the decisions on the spot that those would involve. I have another type of pre-made decision, which is the emergency safeguarding decisions. And those are things like, if this symptom happens, that means I need a break instantly. So again, I am not having to process in that moment, what does this symptom mean? Should I take action about it? What action? So I'm not having to process any of that. It's a pre-made decision. If this happens, this is what I do. If my face starts going numb and my mouth starts not working properly, instant rest at the earliest possible moment. Go to bed, cancel everything for the next couple of hours, reassess later. Because for me, that means that's a symptom that means my POTS has escalated to a point that it's going to cause symptoms for a significant increase in background level of symptoms if I don't deal with it. So if I reach this point of symptoms, rest is the only sensible option. I can make those decisions in advance, so it becomes if then, and there isn't actually any processing happening, but I can make the sensible choice because I've kind of already made that decision, if that makes sense. So as a whole, that process of making the daily plan decisions and the emergency clauses in advance, for me, it kind of creates that safety net. So I've got a day that should be mostly within capacity, even if I'm not actually well enough to process what my capacity is and what decisions I need. So instead of then having a day where I do the things that come into my head to do, which may well be above capacity, I may well then sit and try and struggle with a task that needs to be done because it needs to be done, because I can't actually process that I don't need to struggle with this because it's fine to leave it till tomorrow. So but if I'd made the decision in advance of what the things within capacity were going to be, then that task would have been consciously set aside for another day, and I wouldn't have had that stress. So for me, it's actually made my life so much more manageable. This isn't something that's necessarily going to work for everyone who needs to post and has fatigue, overwhelm and stuff, but it's something that I would highly recommend considering and looking at what decisions you can make in advance that will then reduce that cognitive load, reduce your stress levels, and create almost like a safety net for your day that will work for you. So there you have it. That's how I use decisions in advance to help me manage my brain fog, fatigue and overwhelm.